Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world. Hello and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show. Dialogue and its importance. Why is dialogue important? What makes a successful dialogue? Why is it so important for us to learn the tools we need to develop the skills to have a successful dialogue? Today, we are going to talk to Amir Behbahani. He is the perfect person to be talking about this. A little bit about my guest today. Amir Behbahani has more than 35 years of diversified experience in engineering, management consulting, facilitation, coaching, development, sales, and marketing. He is a much sought after speaker, presenter, and program developer. Recently, we did a show together called Shegoftar in Iranian, where we discussed all the different logos, the meanings, and how to develop a new language, a new outlook on life, and how that can change our lives individually and also collectively. That show is to be continued. You'll get details very soon. Anyways, Amir is here today, and we are going to talk all about having a successful dialogue and how it's so important in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, please share this talk with other people as they might also find it helpful. I want to thank you for being with us for the next hour. Please share your experiences, your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also send us some likes. Help me welcome Amir Behbahani on Dela's Voice. Good day.
Good day. As Australians say, good day.
Good day, Mike.
How are you doing?
Good. What, you spent some time in Australia, didn't you?
Yeah, I was. I had this opportunity to work for in the context of business development. I had a relationship with Australian companies, and that was a good introduction to the type of society and economy that we more or less do have in Canada as well. So I call these economies in terms of they have a infrastructure, European infrastructure, but a growth model of Northern America. So it's a combination. It's a mix of two worlds in a way. Yeah, that has been my part of my career anyway.
Well, you have so much experience in working with really multinational corporations, and this is a part of what you taught, isn't it? Having a dialogue and how it's so important. So you're perfect for this talk, Amir, and I want to thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge with us today.
My pleasure. Yeah, we had this sort of another version of this discussion in those the sessions Shegoftar, and as you are aware, I look to dialogue as a communication space, which is which has a distinction with so-called sender-receiver models, which we inherited during the industrial, revolution, as a powerful model to help us to go towards mass production and welfare. But when things get a little bit more complex because of not say, regarding or respecting the equilibrium and balance we need for sustainability, then other ways and mindset of looking to communication emerged, as a consequence of which we have now communication spaces, which has its roots to in how we look to the world. And that old model which we owed it to Mr. Newton and say industrial revolution. More or less, when we are talking about communication spaces, we are looking to how scientists are looking to our world nowadays at a micro and very macro level. We call it, say, a holographic approach to the world and knowing the world. So, especially physicists active as in quantum mechanics, as well as people working in chaos theory, they are much more familiar with this way of communication, which is has rooted in communication spaces. So yeah, I look to a dialogue as a very important communication space, and I have approached to dialogue, and I have tried to say use it in my field of expertise and in the layer of organization development and helping organizations to enjoy the sustainability as a balance between growth and development. So yeah, this is a very brief history.
Yes, and I know that in our 12 session of Shegoftar, we went really deep into every single part of this, and I'm thinking we should do the same in English, and share this knowledge with the English speaking. But for today's sake, and because we only have a certain amount of time, I wanted you to please, in very simple format, if we could share with our viewers. And I want to make sure that we put up this banner so as people jump on, they know what we're talking about. Dialogue and its importance. So my first question, Amir, why is dialogue important?
Mm-hmm. If we go back to again, that's the communication model of using, say, communication spaces as trying to become united or get together, then the way we distinct various communication spaces is looking to their intention. The intention of dialogue is cognition and recognition. And usually we use that when we face not simple problems which have a solution, but complex problems which need a resolution or dissolution. So when we are respecting dialogue in terms of introducing that at a personal, organizational, or social level, we first have this assumption that we are facing a complex problem, a messy problem, as a consequence of probably ignoring to solve simple problems. I don't know, but as we have moved, especially in this era, we are now facing complex problems, which will ask us to divert from just looking to parts and seeing the whole at the same time. So this say play between parts and whole is known to help us to have cognition and recognition of complex problems. We have a metaphor in our Persian, say, literature and Irfan, talking about an elephant in a dark room being touched by different people, experts, to find out what is this creature. And because nobody has had that, say, candle in hand, which could be dialogue, then everybody was trying to interpret what was in the room, in the dark room, based on his own expertise or specialty, each one looking from their own perspective to a phenomena which is beyond the simple problem. So the core of dialogue is to respect the intention of it, which is cognition and recognition, as in contrast, for example, with negotiation, which has the intention of agreement, or discussion, which has the intention of understanding each other, or debate, which is a communication space in which we try to convince people and persuade people that what in terms of what we believe in is a appropriate answer to solution. So I distinct these various communication spaces, looking into their intention. And so, if we want to enter in dialogue, that communication space, this should be the intention of agents or players, performers, actors that are involved in that very dialogue on a subject which by default is complex, and we inherit complexity not because we are now facing multiple parts of something, but because of the nature of relationship, which is not anymore mechanical, but organic, and nowadays we say dialogic, which do have boundaries but no limits. So in dialogue, this is why people that are entering in this communication space would need to be patient enough and tolerate each other, because sometimes an authentic dialogue may take long enough. But we know that even when we face simple, say, problems, that if you manage to define the problem, it is more than 80% of the solution. So trying to find and recognize a complex issue and seeing it from different angles, share it with each other, and then co-create something. Because by default, when we are looking to communication space model, we have a contextual angle of approaching to a phenomena. We are not that much dealing with the form or content. We are looking to that problem as a phenomena, something that is going on and is in the realm of becoming. So this is why sometimes when people ask me to define or come up with a definition for dialogue, I can just say it is when you ask a physicist in quantum mechanics that try to define or explain the location of electron, or try to tell me how fast it goes, because in that realm, that sort of questions do not have the meaning we use in other realms. So we are when we have a contextual approach to issues, phenomena, complex issues, which I think that's the most appropriate, say, way of approaching to complex problems. We have to convince ourselves, or at least reach to an equilibrium with ourselves, that we are not expecting the same questions or the same answers that we are using in a sender-receiver type of communication, which is very much based on information, bringing formation into the relationships, which is very good. Or other meditative approaches to hold, which is very much relying on, say, feeling things, experiencing things. So when we are talking about dialogue in this context, we have somehow this is a default, say, state, that we are trying to explore something together to have a better understanding of that elephant in dark room. So
That's the intention, right?
that's
Like
the
you said.
intention. That's the
So I mean, I'm thinking of dialogue in its simplest form. I mean, if we were to strengthen our muscles and everything you talked about, these are all the different components that we have to really get good at, and understanding and having a deeper those deeper conversations. I mean, the simplest form of it goes on in our families, and sometimes we can't even have a proper dialogue with our family members without it turning into this huge argument. And so, I mean, to me, it's so important to learn how to have a proper dialogue. Um, so let me ask you this next question. Um, what comes in our way of having a successful dialogue?
Yep, I'll call it. I don't know if we have to say successful, but with efficient and
Efficient. That's it. Yeah.
effective dialogue. Yeah, but
You have
uh,
such a way with words, and
yeah.
I'm used to this.
No, that's good as well, because if we feel successful, it's a manifestation of a balance between efficiency and effectiveness, efficacy of what we are doing. But the case is that, to me, since we are not so much familiar with a foundation or basic characteristic of dialogue, which asks us to suspend our assumptions. So when you enter into a dialogue, you have to have enough practice is suspension of your assumptions and pre-assumptions, which you do have all the right to have them, because it's your past experience, it's your belief, it's your gene, it's your coming from the history, the context as well. But it is been known that if we want to talk about what is dialogue in terms of the content, it's very much related with the fact that if you want to enter into a dialogue to co-create something with a ultimate intention of living together and not dying together and not just being together. It's a living together, becoming something new. So it is sort of a rebirth of the agents involved in that communication, in that communication space. So to be able to do it effective and efficiently, then you need to have this mastery of suspension of assumptions. So I usually use this quick test of asking people in a dialogue when I used to work, when I am asked to facilitate dialogue sessions in organizations. I begin asking people that are present there to count down from 10 to 1 backward as quickly as they can. We have done it together, and you
You
are aware of.
fooled me.
Yeah, usually people come up with 10, 9, 8, because they are not actually sustaining their beliefs. They are expecting to hear what they're hearing, and this is why hearing will be a very important, say, skill beyond attentive hearing, which is very popular in scientific area when we are observing a subject, we want to analyze the parts. You have to go to another level of listening, and it is then empathic listening, which is the realm of experience, which is an indication that you are there, is an indication of being there, presence in its complete form. So you are not just there physically, you are there emotionally as well. And so that's what you need. And these are all the prerequisite for listening for possibilities. The realm of dialogue is realm of possibilities, because we can only live together when we co-create possibilities, despite all the facts and despite the fact that we may face a low probability for that. So that endeavor, that attempt to co-create together will require, first of all, to suspend our say pre-assumptions, and then to master the couple of, I call it, core competencies, which on the hearing side is empathic listening and listening for possibilities, And on the speaking type of skills, it is how we keep the language for an action, because we just don't enter into dialogue for the sake of having a dialogue. It's not. Not a realm of theory. It's not the realm of action as well, but it's a combination of two. And this is not so easy as Einstein has put it, that in theory there is no difference between theory and action, but in action there is. So it is simple, but not easy. Any attempt to keep this balance and equilibrium is simple, but not easy. So you need a lot of practice to master that outlook of the world, to see parts and whole together at the same time. And this is what has been known of one of the qualifications of an intelligent mind, that is not just looking to solve the conflicts or enjoy contradictions, but to carry paradoxes, which are seemingly to conflict idea that we have to carry. For example, at an organization level, we are always dealing with quantity quality. Now we look into that as say conflicting forces. To me, it's a paradoxical issue. You can still look into quantity growth while keeping an eye on say quality development. If you don't do that, then probably you will not end it in sustainable, say, progress. So you lose the opportunity of living together, even if you may enjoy a very short time of thinking or believing that you are, say, living together. But that's a ultimate, say, issue when we deal with organizations that are looking for sustainability. And at the family level, as you mentioned, things are a little bit more, even more complex, because we have the generation gap as well. So parts are there. You can't ignore them. But still, family as a whole should help us to keep that balance between the two. And it needs a lot of say practice individually, and the system should help us as well.
Mhm.
Most schools and the teaching concepts that we are now implementing as a consequence of that old model of sender and receiver, to me, is not supporting the
No,
environment.
no.
It helps us to produce people that are no more creative. So how can they co-create something with other people? So if you just uh, keep a child, say, brain in, say, in a sort of cells with very well defined procedures, ignoring the process of learning, which is very much relying on communication spaces. And I use these communication spaces in learning organizations or learning families or learning schools, where people do have or do have the will to learn, because learning is the only distinctive, say, advantage that most living systems or complex systems should have if they want to survive, thrive, and sustain, even go beyond survival and thriving at the edge of chaos. And that's how we guarantee sustainability, living together and not dying together. So that's very important. While we have these structures, frameworks in place to give, introduce order in disorder, we have to create agents and players, performers, actors that do have the capability and capacity, and eventually the competency, to play with these boundaries, to redefine the game. That's how you do not repeat yourself. This is the core and essence of sustainability. It is sustainable, not to repeat things. So that's how I look to what people may need. It's easy to say, simple, but not
That's
easy.
not
So
easy. So something you said is I believe that going into a dialogue, suspending all judgments and preconceptions, we are
assumptions.
entering preconsumption. Sorry, we are entering a dialogue with the sole intention of learning from one another, and I think that can be so helpful.
That's just a gateway to learning, because if you really wanted to enter into that learning cycle, then you have to master other communication spaces as discussion. Even we need negotiations, because we are facing to sometimes limited resources. We have to agree on something. The dialogue is entering into this cycle by cognition and recognition of the, or redefining of the case in hand, the phenomena, the problem, if you will. But it's not even it's not problem, it's not difficulty, it's a messy problem to define that. And then because we face say limited resources, then we will need discussion, even debate, in terms of what is appropriate at that special say time and place in that special situation. It's a situational way of looking to that. And then we have to negotiate to come up with an agreement. And even we need a presentation to inform each other. So that informing each other is part of that learning, because we have to share our knowledge, not just transfer the information with other people. But that's how that, and that's why many say many people that are following the learning type of organizations or approaches, they advocate the creation of communities of practice and communities of a shared interest to address the issue, as compared to what we do in private sector, which is very much profit driven, and public sector, which is very much power driven. In plural sector, which is at the edge of part and whole, then it's very much people driven. And this is why we need to even redefine people. For example, in an organization, we don't call them anymore staff or worker. They are human resources, or even human capital. To me, it's even beyond capital, human assets or people. At the core of it, now we have companies around the world that have dissolved their HR, and we have a people director, or a person that should look to people not just as a part, but as a whole. So he or she is responsible not just for the physical welfare or the emotional well-being, but the comprehensive wellness of that person or culture, or an organization. I
That's
can see here that Human has put on the word of optimal. It's a, yeah,
Yeah, is it the
optimization.
same?
Yeah, optimization is a very good approach when you deal with a complex situation, minimizing the say losses and maximizing the benefits based on the context and the situation we are in. That's an intelligent way of putting that approach, and learning as a driver of a system sustainability, an organization, a society, a family, schools. We are now trying to redefine the schools in terms of helping them to help other people to learn, rather than just be trained or be educated in a way, and just uh, learning, not just conveying some idea to these people. And this is what is being now done at an organization level. This is why now we are more looking to mentorship, coaching, or facilitation.
Yeah.
So the role of the person who is running that space is not just a manager or a leader, it's a navigator, it's a facilitator. So words are trying to find new meanings because our approach is very much based on meaning and not just the context, not just the form or content. So these are things that are being emerging, which is again the nature of dialogue is very much emerging. Uh, Authentic dialogues, sometimes people are surprised on what emerges out of that space. This is why we use shegoftar, shegeftar. It's surprising result, and so it is good because the finding that people can be surprised is an indication of the fact that they are still alive.
Yes, and open to learning.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a short break, Amir, and we're going to be right back.
No worries.
Welcome to Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop, serving Newmarket, Ontario and area for over 18 years. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop is here to make your flower sending experience a pleasure. Please visit us online at www.flowersandthingsflowerandgiftshop.com or call us at 905-830-0024. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop. We thrive on your satisfaction. And we're back with Amir Behbahani on dialogue and its importance. It seems to me that a lot of times we go into dialogue, and I think maybe I'm assuming that a successful, or like you said, an effective dialogue would mean that we have to reach an agreement. Is that, what do you think?
No. In dialogue, that's not the intention. I was just pointing out the fact that when you mentioned learning, I try to elaborate on a learning process as a combination of various communication spaces, including negotiation. So if you are focusing on learning, at the end of the day, you have to come up to an agreement because of limited resources. But with that dialogue, we are still at a phase of cognition and recognition. So there is no need to agree on things. So the case is that how we interconnect with each other. It is not the matter of whether this interconnection is gonna lead us to an agreement or even understanding each other, because those also are needed to have a complete learning process or to go through that. If we go back to interpretation of dialogue, not definition, as I say, dialogue is coming from dia and logos. These are Greek words. Dia is not two people talking, is emerging from within. So when you are entering a dialogue, it's not just two people talking to each other or listening to each other. It's a multiple agents and perspective being introduced in the room. For example, at the organization level, we ask for all the functions to come in if we face a complex issue. We want to redefine our strategies for the future. So we call financial expert, we call the engineering expert, we call all experts into the game. And that's with the family, because sometimes families are trying to have a dialogue, but it's just between the father and mother. Well, children, they have a say on that. Even if they may not be that much attentive, they are much more creative than their say parents, especially these days with these technologies. So the first stage is to introduce multiple agents there, dia, and logos, which is the root of logic, cognition, and logic. Logos means word, and logos is sacred because it reveals meaning, but a meaning that is being generated with an effort of all agents involved. This is like language. Language is, to me, is an emerging phenomenon. It's not a well-defined object that we say the definition of language is this. No, I see it as an emerging phenomena. It is evolving issue. It's like if you try to define poem. See, I don't know if you have seen this Dead Poets Society movie, which is very interesting movie on learning and education and how this guy is trying to introduce a learning, say, philosophy in a school that is very much conservative and based on discipline and procedures, well-defined procedures, including his literature, say, professor and teacher. And when he wanna define, he wanna say talk about poem and poetry, then people say that we have a book on that, and there's a definition from a very well-known poet, and that well-known poet defines poetry in two axes of how people relate and how you define recite the poem, and it comes up with a graph on what is a successful or what is a poem or an acceptable poem. And the guy asked all the students to rip off that page and try to go back and see poem or poetry as an emerging type of phenomena. So if you try to capture an emerging phenomena and put it into the prison of specific definitions, you may end up with something that is in contrast to what you're trying to do. That's used to work in different era, in certain situations. As I told you, looking into the parts and coming up with definitions helped us a lot in terms of defining or improving productivity and improving, say, mass production welfare at the early stages of industrial revolution. But even down deep in that scientific, say, framework, you can't just have a efficient car running in the streets just by analyzing the tires or the engine or this part or that part. Still, there is a hole there, which is depending on mechanical relationship between the parts. But when you're looking to living organisms and systems, organic systems, then the nature of the relationship will change. And when you enter into abstract, complex issues that we are facing today, to me, at the individual, organizational, or social level, then we are talking about dialogic relationships, which is different from mechanical or organic relationships. It's very much how we say understand or get to a collective wisdom of looking to our world as a hologram and seeing the footprint of a whole in parts and seeing parts in the context of a total system or a whole. If that doesn't happen, then even if we have reached to some conclusion, it may not be that much appropriate for the problem in hand or the situation we are facing. So we are talking about relative and absolute, say, concepts, and we acknowledge that. But again, to me, when we are talking about dialogue in an authentic, say, background, all these ways of looking to our world do have something in them that we have to respect them. So sender receiver model do have some benefits for us and had some benefits for us, but we have to evolve with that whenever need.
There's so many layers to this, and this topic is very, very interesting, and a lot of people would love to learn more about this. So where can people get some more help if they're looking to perhaps, like I said, strengthen those muscles, if whether it's their organization or just on an individual level, um, can they reach out to you, and are you
Yeah,
able to help?
yeah. My focus is on organizations, and nowadays there are a lot of references on so-called uh, organization and as a conversation space. This is how people look to postmodern organizations, and there are a lot of people working on uh, more or less this approach. Now, even here in Canada, we have that conceptual model of plural public and the private sector. I have borrowed it from Mr. Mintzberg here. But the case is that, yeah, if I could be of any help to facilitate organizations, especially say small medium scale enterprises, and say people on the way, entrepreneurs on the way to enter into so-called what we call experience economy context, in which we are going beyond economy of scale to economy of scope and economy of a space. How we create or co-create spaces needed for balance between growth and development, in order to enjoy what we are doing, to be happy. Happiness is now a name of the game, and it's a well-known fad in organizations. Why our employees are not happy, why we are not happy with what we do, why we are not happy with this or that. Yeah, I will be more than happy that's the layer of focus on that. But at the social and individual level, there are a lot of say references. Most of them, I categorize them in a category of literature rather than science or so-called spiritual type of approaches to this concept. So a lot of movies, a lot of books, a lot of say novels, and I always invite people to look into these things from a different angle and to have dialogue with them, not just watch it because they want to watch it and spend their time or waste their time. If they really want to do that, that's good to do, and to do it with other people. That will be a very good way to enter into dialogue and try to look to what they see or feel from different angles. That could be helpful. But one very important distinction I always add to this way of looking to organization development is I always ask people to be aware of inauthentic spaces or pseudo spaces, which they may end up as a consequence of going to extremes and to commoditize the experiences they are looking for, because that may create that may convert profit to greed and power to force and people to sort of populism, which is not balanced. And in imbalanced, say, environment, even though it's possible to achieve equilibrium, it's very much low probability for that to happen. So, to me, we are now in an era that even before talking about dialogue is how to prevent to enter into some sort of casual talks, which are very popular now with in the social media. When we are talking about even other communication spaces, it's easily for a discussion which has an intention of understanding to become an argument. It is very now popular for debates to be a platform for misinformation, accusation. So before
And that's what you call inauthentic space.
inauthentic space, imbalance, I call this is why I go beyond equilibrium and talk about balance and equilibrium.
Yes.
So it's imbalance. According to what people in physics are talking about, Brian Greene and his book Elegant Universe. Universe, in terms of looking parts in the whole, is elegant. You can track elements of beauty in that. It is elegant. It is the realm of art. It's a piece of art. It's not just a piece of machine. So it's a piece of art. It's elegant. So in imbalance, say environment, you lose that authenticity of elegance, and this is why you may not, even if you try your best, you may not end up with efficiency or effectiveness and at most efficacy of what you're doing. So it is very important. Other words with E are also there. Ethics, yeah, economy is there. We need to look into that, but we need ethics as well because these are sort of elements that will define the boundary of the game. So when we are talking about this sort of emerging phenomena that we are dealing with, it doesn't mean that we are dealing with anarchy. It is an effort to find order in disorder, like nature. So when you're talking about chaos, it's very important that we understand that life blossoms at the edge of chaos. Again, according to physicists that have put that. So that's how we live together. This is how we have to approach to the concept of chaos to distinct it from anarchy. So yeah, complex games do acknowledge the boundaries, but at the same time they are infinite games. I sometimes use the metaphor of soccer for people that are interested in sport. That look, this is a complex game. It's not like weightlifting, which it has a say goal and you go there. In soccer, yeah, you have an intention to win the game or even to enjoy the game sometimes. But the case is that everything there is related to everything else. And as I told you, it's not just the number of the parts, but the relationship. And moreover, the third element that make systems more complex is degree of freedom and increase of that degree of freedom among agents. This will end up scientifically to a very well-known, concept of butterfly effect, which is talking about why you can some very small changes in initial condition of these systems may eventually lead to very large scales of change. As the saying goes, when a butterfly flies somewhere, it may create Ida storm in New York.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Given the fact that now we are living in a more connected, interconnected, and therefore complex, global village. So we have to look into these things in that context and be aware of, imbalance world that may lead us not to live together but to die together.
Yeah.
So be aware of extremism and commoditization. So when you convert production just to consumption and go to commoditize any human-centered, production, which should have value added for people, then you are very much in danger of entering into that space, which then will lower down the probability of that possibility of living together. So it's a matter of possibility and probability, and that's how things work. Even imbalance environment may look very natural, which is we do have again another scientific law, second law of thermodynamics, talking about our world and nature is going towards towards say decay, chaos. Or, there is an indicator they're talking about entropy. Just what we do is to help increase that entropy, which is an indication of disorder in the world. But to me, what human being has done in a context of civilization, culture, is trying to uh, 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 bring the probability, the very low probability of, say, uh, uh, building things, creating things, co-creating things. You know that always destruction is very easy, natural. It is what nature does very, very naturally, not easily, but naturally. But the human beings, to me, are there to co-create civilizations, culture that will have then a footprint down there in this process, and that's what people has done during this evolution of evolutionary history we have, even if it's the history and evolution of the history and societies are being carried by the rules and ordinary people, they owe to exceptions to the rule. The evolution of science, the evolution of societies, the evolution of our culture is as much indebted to exceptions rather than the rule.
This is it's so interesting because I know you've talked about this before, and you say in the absence of in the absence of civilization, we see destruction, and when humans are there, you see evidence of progress and obviously building, and it's so contrary to the popular belief of today's society when they talk about humans causing destruction of the world, and I much rather go with your
Whenever you face destruction, be sure that it is an indication of the absence of humanity, not human.
yes.
So that's that. If you watch something, if you face something and an indication of destruction, then I am pretty much now. I'm not that much certain. People are not talking from certainty, but I could say this, that it's most possible that there is the absence of humanity, or what we call insan, not Adam, and these are two different words. So if you are talking about human as a say
A
sort of
species.
species,
Yeah.
that's it. That's another story. But when we're talking about humanity, this is where then is a very good alert and say indicator that shows that there is the absence of humanity.
Yes.
هر ویرانه نشان از غیاب انسان داره، انسانی داره. And this is the essence of sometimes you understand something not by something being there, but when it's absent there. This is like experience. So sometimes the absence of something will help us to better understand the value of that.
Yes. What we take for granted. You're right. That's what we do. Amir, we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, and you said there are some movies and there are some books that people can go to for resources, if they want to have that dialogue with their friends to better understand this. But what are some, just quickly, because we are running out of time, what are some really, and I know that you say it's not easy, but it's simple. What are some practices that we can start today to move us in that direction?
We had a discussion with a couple of good friends that are trying to introduce this sort of tools in what they're doing. And I have now some of them on top of my head because we were discussing that. For example,
great.
Yeah, we were talking about mind walk. which is a movie that we use in Shegota, part of
Yeah.
which we're talking about Dead Poets Society in terms of learning. We're talking about the Patch Adams, which is a true story of the first person which introduced a patient-centered approach to healthcare in the United States, actually. So these are movies that are usually used, part of them, in my workshops to convey the idea. When we are talking about, say, books, I always say invite people to look into postmodern type of say literature and writings and novels. For example, I like Milan Kundra's works, Unbearable Likeness of Being, or other books that is very much talking about these issues there. There are a lot of good, say, way of looking to these things in so-called recent scientific, say, books like The Elegant Universe and documentaries on that, which is approaching to this holographic, say, ideas in a very understandable, say, way for public. And there was this festival of science during which people from all different of say disciplines like physics, like psychology, like neuroscience, they introduced some very high update, say, ideas and cutting edge ideas in a very, very, to me, understandable way. Again, that would be good for people that are coming from a scientific background. And then literature in general, for Iranians, I always ask them to look into the poetry, which is the core of our say literature of is modern say poetry like Shamlu, but Hafiz, Sadi, Molavi, Ferdowsi, Khayyam. These are people that you can really get some relationship with him. In the West, the people that are looking into spirituality, not all of them, not those that are looking to that in terms of commercialization, they are good references. As I told you on Dialogue, David Bohm has written a book on that. The Krishnamurti and other people have talked about these issues. On learning organizations, Peter Senger's famous work of Fifth Discipline and Dance of Change, that concept of dancing, it is very, very important in terms of when we are looking about diversity and inclusion, parts and whole. It is a very, very interesting metaphor for understanding these communication spaces. So these are all people that are working on that. At an organizational level, people that are interested in that level, I definitely suggest Main Spirit Works as well as Ronnie Lesson, because these are very interesting people looking to organization development from various angles, north, south, east, west, and they are very, very good. Web of Life again is a book by Fritjof Capra, which is to me is a combination of what he has done in his previous works, like Turning Point, which was the book based on which we had Mind Walk movie being introduced, and these are things like that. But you can find a lot of resources on these concepts. The case is that how you discipline yourself to practice these things and try to introduce them. And to me, my only advice is if you want to do that, try to do it locally, participative, and community based. To me, this is the only way to get rid of all the noises and disruptions you will get from all these, say, dominant or mainstream media, including social media, which to me should reach a point of equilibrium after all these things that is being like witnessed by people.
Well, you know what? As you always say, it's improbable, but very possible.
It
Right.
is improbable, but yeah, collective wisdom as a consequence of people together trying to transform data to information, information to knowledge, knowledge to understanding, and eventually to collective wisdom, to me, goes through these communication spaces, beginning with dialogue and dialogos as its, say, first or pillar, if you want to call it. And it is a very important communication spaces nowadays, missing at a personal, in the organizational, and more, even more at social level. People are not having, say, constructive dialogues or uh, efficient and effective, successful dialogues, at the end of which you get this feeling that you wish to live together and not again
God,
die together or just be
yes,
together.
yes. I just want to say thank you so much. And you have had almost 40 years of experience teaching organization on organization level, and I mean, that what you do is amazing and so valuable. And I want to thank you for being here and giving us your time. I am looking forward to continuing this conversation, and perhaps we can have something like what we did on Shegoftar in Iranian. We can do that in English so that we can reach, those people who don't speak Iranian, which would be fantastic. So I want to thank you, and I want to give you just one more minute to finish with whatever you like.
Nothing else to say, but just repeating the fact that it's a quote from Bertrand Russell that it is both wise and meaningful to live at the edge of love and say logic, head and heart, to then have the soul of a navigator. So keeping the balance between the two is needed if we want to live together and not die together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And looking forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us, for your comments, and for being with us in the past hour. Please reach out to Amir if you're looking to deepen your understanding in this, and if you have an organization that can use this knowledge, which everybody can, reach out to Amir at 1437 992 4948. Thank you again, Amir. I appreciate you very much, and looking forward to talking to you again. For those of you who've joined us, thank you again one more time. This has been Dela's Voice, sparking your soul, I hope. Till next time. Bye. Bye, Amir. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.